Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Today we're sitting down with Mykel Gayent. He's an advocate, phenomenal guy, and he's a Brother Be Well content contributor. He's got a story that he's sharing about his journey through trauma and addiction up to service and recovery. Mykel Gayent, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm doing quite well. Thank you.
Really, really great to have you here. I appreciate it. You've already walked us up through some pretty, dark. We're overusing that term, but you had a few things you had to deal with, dealing with some early childhood experience, exposure to ACEs that led you to substance abuse via alcohol and crack cocaine. You dealt with panic attacks. And then you wound up, hitting literally 8 rock bottoms, the bottom of 8 bottles of alcohol, and making a decision to enter into a recovery program. I'm wondering, with that recovery program, somebody's watching this, I think, Mykel, and I don't think I know. Somebody's watching this, and they're thinking about starting a recovery program of their own. Often, we say it a lot, taking that very first step is hard. It's sometimes hard to just make the phone call or walk in the door. I'm wondering if you can take us back to the moment you decided to do that and talk directly to that person to help convince him to take the first step in his life. Where were you at, and what prompted you to say, I got to go take care of this and I got to go do it?
Well, my journey actually began 3 years before I actually made a success out of going into recovery. And the reason I say that is because I started with outpatient treatment. Where I went for treatment, I asked them if I can go in to rehab or inpatient treatment, and they told me no, it wasn't available to me at that time. So they put me into one intensive outpatient treatment, and it really wasn't working. I was working hard to make it work, but I was in a group with other people who we go through the therapy, and each night they go home and do whatever it was that they did, whether it's alcohol or drugs. And in the beginning I tried to do the same thing, but they kept coming, and I'm like, they were just getting like slaps on the hand. So eventually I started doing the same thing. So I finally did stop, and I did finish the outpatient program, but it only lasted like 9 months. And I started going to AA and started listening to other people's stories. And I people were telling stories that was devastating to me. I couldn't believe it. The people were they were losing their lives and losing their homes and their families and stuff. And none of this was happening to me yet. They started talking about rock bottom, and I hadn't felt any of that. So it took another outpatient program, and again that I was able to stop for 9 months too. But what I was doing was what in AA they call it white knuckling. I just wasn't drinking. I just stopped drinking. That's all I had done. But after that didn't work, like I said, it took 3 years. In 2013. When I finally woke up out of from that binge and that blackout, and I knew that I had actually hit rock bottom, then I knew that I knew that I could be successful. But this time I went to the VA and I told them the same thing that I told the other organization. I just don't want to use their names at this time. Mm-hmm. They gave me what I asked for. They put me into a 90-day rehab program. Mm-hmm. For which I completed 60 days and decided I was ready to go back into the world. Wow. And I haven't looked back since. And what I would tell anybody else is, there are people out there that's thinking about it every day, just like I had, but it takes courage and fortitude to actually make that move, and also you have to learn to be honest, because during those first 3 years, I was not honest with myself or other people. I'd even told a group of people that I had 1 year under my belt of sobriety, but I didn't. I lied because I wanted the chip, and I wanted to get the accolades for making it that first year. That's an important milestone. So I lied. I got the chip, and then when I finally went to rehab, I remembered I had been looking for the chip and I couldn't find it. But the day I was supposed to go to the rehab, I went to a meeting and had found the chip right there on my nightstand. I've been overlooking it for a long time. I found it, put it in my pocket, went to the AA meeting, and told them what I had done. Told them I lied to them. I gave the chip back.
Wow.
Because I didn't earn it, and I went on to rehab. And a year later, they gave me that. They held that chip. They gave me that same chip back a year later.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you were absolutely ready. You had to get to a point where you were ready for it. And congratulations, by the way, on
Thank
making
you.
it through that. You've talked about your experience in a treatment program, and you said it touched me. You said you found something that you never found in drugs or in alcohol. You found hope. I'm wondering if you can tell us, what does hope mean to you?
Well, when I went to into the program, we had a lot of group sessions. I mean, we had about 4 or 5 group sessions a day. And when people started talking, I started realizing that they were talking about hope, because they believed that they could, they can make a positive change, that they can change the course of their lives. And I started believing the same thing. But for me, I have to keep holding on to my hope, just like I hold on to my faith in God every day. I can't ever let it go, because I want to make it. I want to make it till tomorrow. But tomorrow's not promised me. It's not promised me that I'll make it sober tomorrow. So I have to keep that hope. I mean, I have too many things that I know that I would lose, family, respect of my grandkids, especially. I got 3 granddaughters here in California that when I told them that I was going to rehab, I mean, they were so elated. I didn't realize the impact that I had on them with my with my addictions. And when I let that go, I felt like I felt like a new person, because I felt now I truly had their love, and I don't ever want to lose that.
Such a beautiful part of your story, Mykel. You just mentioned, in fact, your faith in God. And so that leads me, anybody who knows you, and I've only known you for a few months now, but anybody who knows you knows that Jesus Christ is a really important part of your life. Talk about your faith walk and how that has shaped your life today.
Well, when I look back, I realized that through all of my journeys, good and bad, God was there. The reason I know God was there, because I've never ended up in jail. I never had a DUI. Matter of fact, I've been stopped by police, and I've talked my way out of incidents more than once. And that wasn't me doing it. That was God protecting me, and I realized that later on, after after I stopped everything. And when I pray, I just thank Him every day for being there. And I've heard people say, well, if there was a God, why did He let these things happen? I said, well, God didn't let them happen. He let me make these choices, and they were bad choices. So I made the choice to walk a better path, and with His help, and I know that He's always there for me. My path will remain clear.
You have, wow, you've that touched me, Mykel. I really appreciate you saying that. I don't know if I started to ask if you ever thought about the clergy, but you're already a minister. You're already serving, so you're ministering right now. I want to thank you for your transparency there. And speaking of serving and caring, you had an introduction to a very caring introduction, if you will, to the Sacramento chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI Sacramento. You have said that it was life-changing. How did that change the course of your life?
Well, I had already started my journey of recovery, but at work, we had this long hallway where people congregate, throughout the day. And I remember I used to pass this one lady up all the time, and I would speak to her, she would speak back, but I never really thought that I could approach her. You know, it just you just get just get these vibes. But apparently I was wrong, because one day I just decided to approach her and said, I've been seeing you here for years. We've been speaking. I said, my name is Mykel Gayent, and she told me her name, and I started going to her office and taking a break and go and sit down with her. And actually, she turned out to be a liaison for Mental Health California, which is now Cal Voices. And she asked me, had I ever heard of NAMI? And I said no. So she told me, she told me what NAMI was all about, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is the largest nonprofit organization advocating for mental health in the country. And, and I thought that was amazing that there was even an organization like that. And we had a affiliate here in Sacramento. So I reached out to them. I went online, found out that they had a class called Peer to Peer that was just starting. I called them up and I got accepted to that class. It was a 10-week class teaching me all about mental health, teaching me about various symptoms like the depression and anxiety and PTSD that I was experiencing. And then they also teach you about how an individual can deal with these symptoms on a daily basis. We develop tools that we use, for instance, earlier before we started this, I did some mindfulness, and that's one of the tools that I use in order to get through my day. So I started with that after that, and I started meeting people, and was invited to go out on an outreach in the community. And of course, I was nervous that day. I mean, I was there. I had brochures and other literature, and I started talking about NAMI, and then before I know it, I was starting to talk about myself, and I found out that that's how a lot of the peers reach out to the community by telling their stories. So I started doing that, started perfecting my story, started learning all I could about NAMI and mental health, and then people started seeing me in other locations, and they tell me they remember me, they like my story. So I started realizing that I was having an impact, and I became a regular member of the NAMI Sacramento staff, and have since become the FaithNet coordinator, where my job as FaithNet coordinator is to introduce the churches and the faith community to mental health, and helping them start the conversation in their ministries.
You have spoken about, Mykel, so much since we've been together today. So I really thank you again for that. You talked about, as we wrap up, I want you to expound upon something a little bit. You mentioned that helping other people, telling your story, and the opportunity to help even just one person is your blessing for the day. I don't think many people, maybe I'm overstating, but some people certainly don't think about helping somebody else. You think of that as their blessing, not yours, not the person who's giving. You view the giving as your blessing for the day. So I'm wondering, as we wrap up, if you'll talk about that a little bit, and what role does service play in your overall recovery?
Overall, and that's interesting. That's an interesting question right there, Mykel, because overall, my giving back to the community is part of my own therapy. For a long time, I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have a regular psychiatrist. So I took to the NAMI organization and going out on outreaches. I love the outreaches, and I took to that as being able to talk about myself and talk about the role of NAMI in the community. That was like my own therapy in the beginning. So of course it continues now. I do have a therapist now. I do have a regular psychiatrist, but I still feel that I need to be able to be available to people and to help them out. And that's what I mean by saying, if I can help one person a day, then that is a blessing for me. And what I found myself doing, especially in this last month, is there are people that I've come across that I've been reaching out to and gaining their trust. And I actually have one person who is dealing with some darkness of his own, but he hasn't been trusting anybody. And I convinced him, and it's true though, that I would be his friend, because he had told me that he has no, he doesn't have family that he can go to, and he doesn't have any friends. And I told him, I'll be your friend, and I've been working with him almost every day for the last 2 weeks, and I'm seeing some differences only because he realized somebody cares, and that's all I want to do is show people that somebody cares.
Wow. Well, Mykel, you said you just need to help one person, and that's your blessing for the day. I will be your blessing for the day because you've helped me today. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for saying that, Mykel. I appreciate it too.
Mykel Gayent, phenomenal friend of mine and content contributor with Brother Be Well. I want to encourage you, if you've heard or seen something today that intrigues you, go to our website, mentalhealthca.org. You can get updates on Brother Be Well. You can even subscribe to the free magazine if you like. Again, mentalhealthca.org. My name again, Mykel P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. And I want to encourage you, till the next time we see you anyway, take good care of yourself and somebody else. Bye-bye.